Don't come to the party tonight. He doesn't like when you're around, she said about her male best friend while checking her reflection. I said, okay, and stayed home, packed all my things instead. She came home at 2 a.m. to an empty apartment called Panicking. I said, don't worry, now he never has to see me again, and hung up. Hey viewers, before we get into the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want more stories like this. Thanks, I've always been a foundation guy. Some people are fireworks, bright, loud, and gone in a flash. I'm the one who makes sure the house stays standing. For 4 years, I was the foundation for Maya. When she wanted to leave her corporate job to find her creative voice in social media marketing, I covered the rent on our downtown 2-bedroom. When her car broke down, I gave her mine and started taking the bus to my job as a senior systems analyst. I didn't mind. I believed that's what a partnership was. I thought if I built a stable enough world, she'd feel safe enough to grow inside it. But there's a problem with being the foundation. Eventually, people forget you're there, and then they start complaining that you're too stiff, too immovable. That's when Julian showed up. Julian was everything I wasn't. A lifestyle photographer, which was code for unemployed with a nice camera and a trust fund. He was spontaneous. He wore silk shirts unbuttoned to the navel and carried himself with a vibe Maya suddenly found irresistible. He became her male best friend almost overnight. At first, I tried to be the cool boyfriend. I invited him over for dinner. I asked about his work. But Julian had this polished, subtle way of making me feel like a guest in my own home. One Tuesday night, after 10 hours of dealing with server migrations, I walked in to find them in the kitchen, sharing a bottle of wine I'd been saving for our anniversary. "Oh, Mark, you're home," Maya said without looking up from her phone. Julian was just telling me about this underground gallery opening. "We are thinking of going. On a Tuesday," I asked, setting my briefcase down. "Don't you have that client meeting tomorrow morning, Maya?" Julian let out a soft, airy laugh. He swirled the wine in his glass, my glass, and gave me a look that felt almost sympathetic. "See, that's the thing, Mark. You're always thinking about meetings and schedules. Maya's an artist. Artists follow energy. You can't put a deadline on inspiration." Maya nodded like he'd just delivered a revelation. "He's right, Mark. You're so rigid. Sometimes I feel like I can't even breathe around you because you're always worried about logistics." "I worry about logistics because logistics are why this apartment has electricity," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She rolled her eyes, a gesture that had become her default response to me. "God, here we go again with the money. You're so heavy, Mark. You walk into a room and bring this weight with you." Julian and I were having such a light, beautiful conversation, and the second you show up, the vibe just dies. "The vibe dies because I'm tired, and I'd like a glass of the wine I bought," I replied. Julian stood and gave my shoulder a patronizing pat. "Relax, man. We'll leave you to your spreadsheets. Come on, Maya. Let's go somewhere. The energy's better." The door clicked shut behind them. I sat alone in the quiet kitchen, staring at the empty bottle. It wouldn't be the last. Over the next 3 months, I became a ghost in my own relationship. I was the provider when bills came due, but a burden when it was time for fun. Maya stopped inviting me to her work mixers. Julian always went. She stopped telling me about her day, saving those stories for their 5-hour brainstorming sessions. The disrespect wasn't explosive. It was a slow leak. She started comparing our lives constantly. If I mentioned my promotion, she'd counter with a vision board Julian helped her create. If I suggested a quiet weekend away, she'd say Julian thought I was stifling her growth. The breaking point didn't come with shouting. It came with a glance in the mirror. I realized I was financing a life I wasn't allowed to participate in. I was working a stable, boring job so she could play socialite with a man who looked at me like I was an appliance. So I made my own logistical plans. I didn't argue. I didn't announce anything. I just quietly began untangling my life from hers. I moved my savings into a private account. I signed a lease on a new place. I waited for the moment when she would finally drop the mask completely. I didn't have to wait long. The Friday of the Black and Gold Gala was when the foundation finally cracked. This wasn't just any party. It was the launch party for a new creative collective Julian had been consulting for over the past few weeks. Maya had been obsessing over it. She bought a $300 silk slip dress and a pair of heels that cost more than my monthly car payment, all charged to our joint credit card. I walked into the bedroom and found her standing in front of the full-length mirror, adjusting the strap of her dress. She looked breathtaking, but when she saw my reflection in the glass, her expression didn't soften. It tightened. "What are you doing, Mark?" she asked, her voice clipped. "Getting ready," I said, loosening my tie. "The gala starts at 8, right?" She stopped and slowly turned around. Then she let out a long, exhausted sigh. "Mark, about tonight, I think it's better if you stay home." I froze, my hand still gripping the zipper of my suit bag. "Excuse me, don't come to the party tonight," she said, turning back to the mirror to apply a layer of dark red lipstick. "It's a very specific crowd. Creative directors, influencers, people in the flow. Julian and I talked about it, and he doesn't like when you're around." The air in the room felt thin. "Julian doesn't like when I'm around." The air in the room felt thin. "Julian doesn't like when I'm around. At a public event, a party you're attending as my partner. Don't get technical, Mark. This is exactly what I mean. You're already turning it into an argument." "Julian says that when you're there, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, worrying if you're bored. You make the energy heavy. He says he can't be his true creative self when he has to feel the weight of your corporate judgment." "My corporate judgment," I repeated, my voice dropping. "You mean the judgment that paid for that dress? The judgment currently funding Julian's creative self, since he hasn't paid for a single drink in 3 months." She slammed the lipstick down onto the vanity. "God, is that all you have? Money. This is why he doesn't want you there. You're a buzzkill, Mark. You're a safety net that started to feel like a cage. Tonight is about my career. And honestly, you're not part of that flow." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I had sacrificed for stood there wrapped in my hard work, telling me I was a cage because a trust fund parasite found my presence inconvenient. The old me would have argued. I would have raised my voice. But I had already signed the lease on the new apartment. I was just waiting for the final push. "Okay," I said. She paused, her hand halfway to her earring. "Wait, what?" I said, "Okay. I won't come." She blinked, almost disappointed that I wasn't fighting back. "Oh, well, good. It's for the best, Mark, truly. Why don't you just order a pizza? Do whatever it is you stable guys do. I'll be home late." "I'm sure you will," I said. She grabbed her clutch and walked out. The second the door shut, the waiting ended. I didn't order pizza. I picked up my phone and sent a one-word text to a number I had saved a week earlier. Go. 10 minutes later, a white, unmarked van pulled into the building's loading zone. 2 professionals who specialized in discreet, rapid relocations met me at the service elevator. I had been a systems analyst for a decade. I knew how to move data without leaving a trace. Moving furniture was just the physical version of the same principle. "Everything with a blue sticker stays," I told them. "Everything else goes." I wanted to look like I was never here. They worked with clinical precision. As they dismantled my desk and packed up my books, I walked through the apartment one last time. I felt like a ghost moving through my own life. I cleared out my shaving kit and my expensive cologne. I left her luxury soaps and her 10-step skincare routine untouched. By 11:30 p.m., I was standing in my new apartment across town. It was smaller, but it was higher up. White walls, dark hardwood floors. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city lights looked like a glowing circuit board. It was clean. It was quiet. At 2:12 a.m., my phone started vibrating against the glass coffee table. Maya calling. I let it ring. Then the texts came. "Maya, Mark, where are you? The lights are off. Maya, Mark, where is your dresser? Why is the closet empty? Maya, what the hell is going on? Maya, my key didn't work on the top lock. Maya, answer your phone." I picked up on the 5th call. "Mark." Her voice was jagged, panic and fur. "Where are you? What did you do? All your stuff is gone. The apartment, it's half empty." "It's not a robbery, Maya," I said calmly. "It's a relocation. It's a relocation." "What are you talking about?" "I just got home. Julian is downstairs in an Uber. We were going to have an after party here. You can't just leave." "Where are you?" "I'm in my new life," I said. "You were right tonight. I was a cage. I was a weight." So I did the only logical thing a systems analyst would do. I removed the redundant variable. "Usury being insane," she screamed. You can't end a 4-year relationship because I told you not to come to one party. Come back right now and bring your stuff back. We can talk about this in the morning. There's nothing to talk about, Maya. You told me Julian doesn't like when I'm around. You said I ruined the vibe. So I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. I'm removing the heavy judgment from your world. Mark, please, she said, her voice slipping into that soft, breathy tone. Julian is right here. He thinks this is hilarious, but I'm actually scared. I don't have the rent for next month without you. You know that. I looked out over the city lights. I didn't feel even a flicker of guilt. Tell Julian to find his creative flow and use it to pay the landlord, I said. Since he's the one who doesn't like me being around, I decided to make it permanent. You are a monster, she spat. You're doing this to punish me. No, Maya. I'm doing this to preserve myself, I replied. Don't worry. Now he never has to see me again. I hung up and blocked her. The first month of my new life was defined by silence, but while my world had gone quiet, Maya's was turning into chaos. The logistics she had always despised were finally catching up with her. Our rent had been $4,000 a month. Maya's creative consulting brought in maybe $1,500. Julian, as I'd suspected, had the financial footprint of a ghost. Her flying monkeys were the first to breach the perimeter. 2 weeks later, her mother, Linda, called me. Mark, Maya's in a complete state, she snapped. Do you have any idea what you've done? She's received a notice to quit from the landlord. She says you closed the account. I didn't close her account, Linda, I said. I closed my account. Maya is an adult. She wanted her freedom, and now she has it. This is retaliatory. And frankly, it's beneath you. Linda hissed. You are the provider. You have a moral obligation to make sure she's not on the street. You need to go over there, pay the arrears, and sit down like a man. Linda, let me be very clear, I said. I have no obligation to a woman who told me I was a cage while wearing clothes I paid for. If she's worried about rent, tell her to ask Julian. I hear his creative flow is very lucrative. I ended the call before she could respond. A few days later, I heard from Sarah, a mutual friend. It's bad, Mark. Sarah sighed. Julian is gone. The second the notice to vacate hit the door, he suddenly discovered he had a calling to do a shoot in Tulum. He left her with the utility bills and a dry cleaning tab. Maya's selling her designer bags just to buy groceries. I feel at peace in my own home, Sarah, I replied. That's all. Maya spent months telling me I was heavy. I've simply removed the problem. If she's struggling, it's because she built a life on a foundation she didn't own. That's not a tragedy. It's physics. Maya's attempts to reach me shifted from anger to a pathetic performative desperation. Since she was blocked, she began sending professional emails to my work address. Email from Maya. Mark, I'm being evicted. I have nowhere to go. My mom won't take me in. Please. I know I said things I shouldn't have, but I was just frustrated. I miss my best friend. Just lend me $5,000, and I'll never bother you again. Please don't let me be homeless. I didn't respond. I let it sit there, a digital monument to the safety net she had so casually shredded. The final blow came when Julian's creative collective was exposed as an actual Ponzi scheme. He hadn't been a consultant. He'd been a scout for a fraud ring. Her reputation in the marketing world was incinerated overnight. 8 months later, the world looked very different. I had been promoted to Director of Systems Architecture. I was standing in the VIP lounge of the city's most prestigious tech gala, about to receive an Innovator of the Year award. I had just finished a conversation with a venture capitalist when I noticed a woman near the service entrance. She was wearing a dress that looked familiar, the same silk slip dress she'd worn the night she told me not to come to the party, but it didn't fit quite right anymore. She looked diminished. She was working the event as a brand ambassador, handing out gift bags to the people she once pretended were her peers. Our eyes met. She handed her tray to a coworker and walked toward me. Hello, Maya. You look incredible. I saw your name in the program. I couldn't believe it. It's been a busy year, I said. Mark, I've tried to reach you so many times. I'm so sorry. Julian was a monster. He used me. I'm living in a boarding house. I'm working 3 jobs just to keep my head above water. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. I heard things were difficult for you, I said calmly. It's been a nightmare. I see now that you were the only real thing in my life. You were my rock. Can we please just go somewhere and talk? I don't want your money. I swear. I just want to hear your voice. You are hearing my voice, Maya. And what it's telling you is tea. There's nothing left to discuss. How can you be so cold? She sobbed. For years. Does that mean nothing to you now? You told me my presence was heavy. You said I was a cage. I simply respected your opinion. I stepped aside so you could have the life you wanted. But I was wrong, she wailed. You didn't just make a mistake, Maya. You spent months systematically devaluing the person who cared about you most. You lost me because you showed me exactly who you are when you think you don't need me anymore. She looked at me, her face twisting back into that familiar mask of entitlement. So what? You're just going to stand there in your fancy suit and watch me drown. You're going to be that guy. I'm not watching you drown, Maya, I said, glancing at my watch. I'm not watching you at all. I haven't thought about you in months. This is the first time I've spent more than 10 seconds considering your existence since I changed my locks. I hate you, she hissed. You're a robot. Maybe, I said with a faint smile. But the robot is happy, the robot is successful, and the robot is finally free of the vibe you brought into my life. I looked past her toward the stage. I have to go, Maya. They're calling my name. I'd wish you luck, but I think you've already had all the luck you're ever going to get. You just traded it for a vibe. I walked away. I didn't look back at her standing there in her wrinkled dress. I stepped onto the stage, the lights warm and blinding, and accepted my award. As I looked out over the crowd, I realized the most satisfying part of the night wasn't the trophy in my hand. It was that when I glanced at the spot where Maya had been standing, she was already gone. And for the first time in my life, the silence was perfect. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story?